Charity begins at home. Let us be charitable to ourselves first. Let us be charitable to our families first. Let us be charitable to our relatives. Let's be charitable to our friends. Of course, then we could also try to be charitable to others. So Abraham was a Hanif. He turned away from the falsehood of his times. You and I have to do the same thing. You have to look for what is false in your life. You have to look for what's false in community. You have to look for what's a farce under the title called religion. Because there's a difference between farce and truth. With truth, it's always synonymous with growth and development and enhancement and productivity and usefulness and goodness and kindness and becoming assets to oneself and one's world in which we live in. So Abraham was a Hanif, and a Hanif is someone who turns away from the falsehood of his times. So he has a lot of work to do. But he was Hanifan Muslima. Muslima means what? Someone who was chosen to submit to divine guidance and to find peace with that instruction. Any human being who decides to turn away from the falsehood of his time and to sublimate his life or her life to a life of lofty living, to a life of goodness, to a life of peace, to a life of security, to a life of enriching not only himself or herself, but enriching others, that person is a Muslim. The other important point that we learned about Abraham in this ayah, وَمَا كَانَ مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ. Shirk is what he was not part of. وَمَا كَانَ مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ. Ashraka means to do things to bring them on par with Allah. Ashraka means to do things to create partners and peers and equals. Let me repeat that. Ashraka, ashirku billah, means to do things, anything, to equate anything with Allah. If you say that book is equal to Allah's book, that is the guidance that provide and the guidance the book of Allah provide, then you make shirk. It's clear. So I would translate that to compromise the uniqueness of Allah. Anytime you compromise the uniqueness of Allah, in terms of His being, in terms of His laws, in terms of His guidance, then you have made shirk. Study the Arabic language. Don't be fooled by the idea. Don't be fooled by the idea that somebody who says there are two gods, they are mushrik and we are not. A mushrik is someone who does or says, and by his doing and his saying, he has brought others on the same plateau, on the same keel, on the same level with Allah. You can't have two masters. You can't have two hearts in one chest. You can't follow two different standards. You can't equate them. Allah is unique. The guidance of Allah is unique. The laws of Allah are unique. The standards that Allah has established through His guidance to His prophets. And let us understand that. The prophets didn't come with guidance in their back pocket or front pocket and they pull it out whenever they want. The prophets were sent with guidance. They had to be the first ones to follow the guidance. And by that token, they were allowed to ask community to follow that guidance. Today there is manifest shirk in Muslim societies. Because why? They were made to believe we are not mushriks, others are. These Christians are. Don't you hear they claim that Jesus is the Son of God? These Jews are. Didn't you hear they claim Uzair is the Son of God? These Hindus are. Don't you see how many gods they have? Consult the dictionary based on what I'm telling you. A mushrik is one who compromises the uniqueness of Allah, who adulterates the uniqueness of Allah. If you claim the Qur'an is the book of Allah, which I hope we have no doubt about, how can you bring other books at the same level with it? And that's why you find our lives have so much of mix up with it. It's so mixed up, it's so wrapped up, that divine loftiness is rarely seen. Divine loftiness is rarely seen. We can hardly carry over that impact to our spouses and our children. This is the challenge. All those of us who feel we are standing on the plateaus of guidance, prove it. Influence your spouse. Influence your children. And that's where you see we fall flat. But as far as speaking with a lot of mouth and a lot of loudness, Muslims are perhaps on top of the world. They can shout and tell the world, oh, we believe in one God. If we believe in one God, what is the impact of this one God on the life we live? Where is the impact of this one God on our politics? Where is the impact of this one God on our economics? Where is the impact of this one God in unifying our society? We can't unify for just now. Maybe we have to be born again. Where is the impact of this one God on the realm of knowledge? You can see how divided we are. Economically, politically, socially, intellectually. Is this the result of dealing with God? Is this the result of dealing with one God? Then if this is the result of dealing with one God, people who believe in the unity of God, in the unity of the universe, in the unity of knowledge, in the power of unity, they will stay far from us. Abraham was a great imam, but he wasn't the imam of religion. He was the imam who made a difference in the lives of his society. He led his society. He stood out by what he said to them and what he worked for. And that's where you and I need to be. We need to be imams of our own lives, rather than have imams for every single thing we wish to do. If somebody wants to move their right foot, they got to get a permission from an imam. They want to do this, they got to get a permission from an imam. Who gave you this kind of understanding?